Have you ever experienced something so unexplainable, it still sends a chill down your spine years later? Well, I have a story for you. A story about a house I used to live in. A house with a voice I'll never forget. It all started about 2 years ago. My friend and I were just chilling on the couch, watching videos on my laptop. We were totally absorbed, quiet, just enjoying the evening. The couch faced away from the stairs leading to the second floor, which is an important detail. Suddenly, I heard footsteps on the stairs. At first, I didn't think much of it. I had 2 dogs, a golden retriever and a little terrier mix, who were always clambering around, so I figured it was just them. But then, less than a minute later, something happened that still makes my skin crawl. A deep, masculine voice, clear as day, said hello. It was a question like someone was looking for somebody, and it came from right behind me. It wasn't from the video we were watching. It wasn't in my head. It was in the room with us. My friend and I whipped our heads around to look at each other, eyes as wide as saucers. We didn't even need to speak. Both knew we had heard the same thing. In a single, panicked motion, we jumped up, grabbed my dogs, and bolted out the front door. I had my phone out, fingers trembling, about to dial the police. Just as I was about to hit call, my mom's car pulled into the driveway. The relief that washed over me was immense, but the fear that lingered. We told her what happened, and we all checked the house together. Every door was locked, every window was shut. There was no one there. To this day, I have absolutely no explanation for that voice. Who was it, and what did they want? You'd think that would be the end of it, but the house wasn't done with me. The second incident was, in some ways, even more terrifying. My bedroom was on the second floor, and I spent a lot of time on my computer. I always left my door open when I was home alone, so my dogs could come and go as they pleased. One afternoon, I was at my desk, gaming, and my dog just started barking. And I don't mean a little yip at a squirrel outside. This was frantic, non-stop barking. He would not stop, no matter what I said. Getting annoyed, but also a little worried, I stood up to see what on earth had set him off. He was standing at the threshold of my bedroom, barking down the long upstairs hallway. As I moved towards him, I heard it again. That same exact deep voice from before. But this time, it wasn't a question. It was a command. It was quiet, but incredibly stern, and it yelled what sounded exactly like my dog's name. The effect was instantaneous. My dog fell silent. He just stopped, mid-bark. The sudden quiet was almost louder than the barking had been. My heart hammered against my ribs. I was completely alone in the house, or so I thought. I slowly backed away from the door, my eyes glued to the empty hallway. The first person I thought of was the friend who was with me during the first incident. I grabbed my phone, my hand shaking so badly I could barely unlock it, and called him. I whispered what had just happened, and he immediately put his mom on the phone. When I told her, her voice got serious. She was genuinely concerned. She made me promise to shut and lock my bedroom door immediately. She even told me to create a code word, just in case I called her back and couldn't speak freely. She wanted me to stay on the phone with her until my parents got home. Sitting in my room, with the door locked and a chair wedged under the handle, I felt like a prisoner. The silence from the hallway was terrifying. I kept imagining someone standing out there, just waiting. Who was this man? How did he know my dog's name? The two experiences were undeniably linked by that same, distinct voice. It wasn't a random noise or my imagination playing tricks on me. It was real. What's even weirder is that long before and after these incidents, I had recurring nightmares about that specific hallway. They were always different, but the setting was the same, and the feeling was always one of pure dread. It was like my subconscious knew something was wrong with that part of the house. I had other strange experiences there. It's like objects moving or doors closing on their own. But those 2 moments with that voice are the ones that are burned into my memory. They're the most unexplainable, the most personal, and honestly, the most frightening things I've ever lived through. I moved out of that house almost 2 years ago, and I can tell you I don't miss it. But sometimes, when it's late and the house is quiet, I can still hear that deep voice whispering, hello. Have you ever experienced anything like this? A ghost, a spirit, or something you just can't explain? Let me know your stories in the comments below. I'd love to read them and know I'm not alone in this. I've always been a bit of a skeptic. I've stayed in some seriously old places, in antebellum plantation, a former monastery in France, even a 17th century palace in Rome. You'd think one of them would have a resident ghost, right? But nope, nothing. Not a single bump in the night. That all changed last November. My girlfriend and I decided to take a romantic trip to London. Now, Soho isn't exactly what I'd call romantic. unless you find drunk people peeing in the street charming. But I had a surprise plan, a historic hotel that looked like it was ripped straight out of a period drama. We arrived in a classic London drizzle and found this dignified Georgian townhouse. The brick was dark with centuries of history, and a discreet little sign read, "Hazlitt's built 1718. This was it. The moment the door buzzed us in, it felt like we'd left the 21st century behind. The wood floors were warped and worn down by generations of footsteps, sloping in a way that just pulled you further inside. Everything was antique, except for a single computer and the modern clothes of the staff. We were totally drained from the overnight flight, so we figured we'd just grab a quick nap before hitting the pubs. Our room key was just a simple tag that said, Sir William Ross. We climbed this time-worn staircase that groaned with every single step, finally finding a door with the same name. The lock made a heavy asterisk clank asterisk. The door creaked open, and we stepped into a small Gothic vestibule. Through another ancient, complaining door, we entered the main room. It was completely paneled in wood, with moldings so thick with layers of old paint you could barely see the details. The weak autumn sun was struggling to get through the heavy silk curtains, so I flicked on a lamp. The room was on the small side, but it was packed with antiques. Hanging over the fireplace was this painting of a frowning old man. Seriously, he looked like he was judging our every move with constant disapproval. Our windows faced into an internal light well, which made the room surprisingly, almost eerily quiet for being in the middle of London. My girlfriend, exhausted, just changed and climbed into this huge, heavy oak bed. She was out like a light, almost instantly. I headed into the bathroom to brush my teeth, just kind of taking in all the historic details. As I was standing there by the sink, something in the bedroom caught my eye out of the corner of my vision. At first, I thought it was another oil painting, one I'd missed when we first came in. But then I realized, there was no frame. It wasn't on a canvas. It was a man. He was probably around 30, and he was straightening up as if he had just placed something on the floor. He was standing near the corner of our bed, looking down at my sleeping girlfriend. He was wearing a dark jacket, and his wavy brown hair was parted to the side. He didn't seem threatening or malicious. It's just curious. Like someone who had just walked into a room and was surprised to find someone sleeping there. Our door was locked, so my first thought was that it was a hotel worker who'd made a mistake. I was literally about to open my mouth and say, "Excuse me? This room is occupied," when it hit me. There's no way he could have entered our room without making a sound. That ancient door, those creaky floors, impossible. That's when I looked closer at his clothes. The lapels on his coat were huge, way too dramatic for modern fashion. In his hair, it had this sort of careless, rebellious look that just didn't feel like it was from this century. The reason I thought he was a painting was because he looked exactly like a character from a Jane Austen movie, but dressed a bit more plainly. My brain just couldn't process what I was seeing. A weird vibration started building in my spine, like I was holding onto an electric fence. Oh, no, it can't be. I'd always heard stories about hotel ghosts, but they're supposed to show up in the middle of the night, right? Not in the afternoon, barely an hour after you check in. And he wasn't transparent or glowing or some kind of floating mist. He just looked like a normal man standing in our room. He never said a word, and he never looked at me, only at my girlfriend on the bed. But even from 15 feet away, with an open doorway between us, I felt this intense vulnerability, like a hot, invisible spotlight was shining right on me. I knew, without a doubt, that this person was dead. Growing up, my parents only ever lived in historic homes, so I'd felt this presence before, years ago. I really don't like to acknowledge these things. I feel like it just encourages them to interact with you more. So, I did the only thing I could think of. I pretended I didn't see him. I turned back to the sink and started brushing my teeth again, running the water, deliberately making noise by clattering our toiletries around. I rinsed my mouth, took a deep breath, and turned back to the bedroom. He was gone. Later, I learned the hotel is supposedly haunted by the ghost of William Hazlitt, the writer it's named after, who actually died in that building. I looked up a portrait of him. The hairstyle was a little different, but everything else, it could have been him. I stepped back into the bedroom and I just couldn't shake the intense feeling of being watched. My girlfriend was still sound asleep, and nothing was missing. I was completely spooked, but I slid into bed, telling myself I was just jet-lagged and imagining things. Despite my unease, I fell asleep. The rest of our trip was incredible, but that moment stayed with me. I didn't want to scare her, so I waited until we were on the flight home to tell her what happened. She was pretty disturbed, but said she hadn't seen or felt anything strange. We went through all the possibilities. A hotel worker? Why wouldn't he knock? He would have seen us in the vestibule before even entering the main room. A lost guest? The door was locked. A hallucination from being tired. I'd slept on the plane, and I don't just start seeing things when I'm a little groggy. Maybe I just didn't hear him come in over the sound of brushing my teeth. But it was a quiet manual toothbrush, not some loud electric one. That hotel was so old and creaky, I'm sure I would have heard something. Then a final chilling thought occurred to me. I never checked under the bed. So I can't rule out that someone was hiding there the whole time, just waiting patiently, and honestly. That might be the most terrifying explanation of all. What do you think happened? Let me know your theories in the comments. It all started about 3 weeks ago. My sister began telling me she was hearing strange things at night. The soft, chilling jingle of anklet bells and a heavy, raspy breathing that seemed to echo from the darkest corners of our house. At first, none of us took her seriously. She'd say things like, "Every night it feels like someone's walking around the backyard. And sometimes, it even sounds like someone is calling my name." My mom and I would just laugh it off, thinking she was just trying to spook us. We'd tell her, "Stop watching those horror videos before you go to bed." But she wasn't joking. She insisted it always happened right around midnight. Then one evening, she came to us, her face pale, her eyes wide with fear. She said, "Tomorrow is Amavasya, the night of the new moon. That's when it's strongest. Please, just stay awake with me until midnight." Now, for those who don't know, Amavasya holds a deep and significant meaning in Hindu culture. It's believed that during this night, the veil between the worlds of the living and the dead is at its thinnest. It's a time when spirits, ancestors, and even darker entities can cross over into our world more easily. Some people use this night to perform sacred rituals, while others, others use it for black magic. Honestly, we didn't believe in any of that. But seeing how genuinely terrified she was, my mom and I agreed. We decided to stay awake with her, just to help her feel safe. At exactly 12 o'clock, we were all sitting together in the living room half awake, half joking about how silly this whole thing was. The time ticked by slowly. By 12:30 a.m., an unnatural quiet had fallen over the neighborhood. There were no traffic sounds, no dogs barking, just an eerie dead silence. It began. From outside, near the backyard, we heard it. A faint asterisk chom. Chom chom. Asterisk, the unmistakable metallic sound of anklet bells, the kind women wear during classical dances or festivals. The sound was slow and rhythmic, as if someone was walking in a deliberate circle. At first, we tried to convince ourselves it was just our imagination, our tired minds playing tricks on us. But the sound grew louder, more distinct. The asterisk, CHAAM, chom. Asterisk moved from the backyard, till the side of the house, and then it seemed to travel straight up, toward the terrace. It was impossible. There was no way anyone could move like that across solid walls without making any footsteps, without opening a single door. We were completely frozen in place. My sister grabbed my hand, her grip so tight it hurt. She whispered, her voice trembling, "See, I told you, it's every night." My mom looked absolutely terrified. She started to chant a prayer under her breath, her voice barely a whisper, but the sound didn't stop. It got closer, seeming to be right above our heads now. And then we heard it, a deep, heavy breathing, slow, uneven, like something was right outside our window, its face pressed against the glass. My sister began to cry softly, burying her face in my arm. I remember my mom whispering frantically, "Don't look. Whatever you do, don't look outside." We sat there, paralyzed by fear, for what felt like an eternity. Eventually, the sounds faded away, leaving behind only that suffocating silence. The next morning, none of us could even think about eating. My mom immediately decided to call a local priest. When the priest arrived, he didn't even wait for us to explain what had happened. The moment he stepped inside the house, his expression changed completely. His eyes darted toward the staircase, then to the backyard. He said quietly, "There's something here. I can feel it." He told us that a spirit had been trapped on our property for a very long time, possibly decades. For some reason, it was drawn to the energy of our home, and especially to my sister. whose spiritual sensitivity was much stronger than ours. He explained that Amavasya nights often awaken such entities, especially if rituals or black magic had once been performed on that land. Then he began the rituals. He lit incense that filled the air with a thick, heavy smoke. He chanted mantras in a low, resonant voice, and he sprinkled holy water in every corner of the house. As he did, the air inside grew heavier, then intensely cold. My sister said she could hear faint whispers coming from near the staircase. My mom swore she saw a dark shadow move quickly across the terrace door. The priest kept chanting, his voice growing louder and more urgent, until finally everything went completely still. He looked exhausted but calm. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "It's gone for now," he told us. "But you must remember this house carries memories, and some memories may never truly leave." After that night, the sound stopped. No more anklets. No more breathing. Life seemingly went back to normal, or so we thought. A few nights later, as I was locking the back door before heading to bed, I heard a faint metallic sound. Just once. Asterisk chom. Asterisk soft. Distant. Almost like a forgotten memory, echoing through the walls. I froze for a moment, then slammed the door shut and locked it tight. Maybe the priest was right. Maybe some memories never really leave. Maybe they just wait. Thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more chilling tales. Stay safe out there.